Joni Lamb should be removed as the leader of Daystar TV. I actually think it's long past time that she should have been removed, and in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why. Now, it seems like with every passing day, this Daystar scandal keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Whether it's a new piece of reporting by the Roy's report, or whether it's a new piece of evidence that comes out in that reporting, or even if it's just another response by Joni Lamb and Daystar, every single thing that we see is making this worse, and it's raising more questions than it's giving answers. And that's why I believe at this point, the only good way forward is an independent investigation that will either prove these allegations true or they will prove them false and exonerate Joni and Daystar. But right now, things just aren't looking good, and we need the truth. And in this video, I'm going to give you 22 reasons why I believe Joni Lamb should be removed at Daystar. That's right, it's a really long list. 22 simple, but I think powerful reasons why she has to be removed. And when I say be removed, here's the deal. I need to be very, very clear about this, even more clear than usual, because Joni and Daystar have a history of threatening YouTubers who report on this at all, okay? These are just allegations. We have to be very clear. These are just allegations. I'm in no way saying that Joni Lamb needs to be removed because she's guilty. She's innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if she's guilty or not, but the 22 reasons I'm going to give you today, these 22 reasons why I think she should be removed is because they're 22 reasons that make me believe that there's at least enough merit with these allegations to have them investigated. And anytime a Christian leader is investigated or accused of things like this, I'm a firm believer they need to be removed from leadership, even if it's paid leave until the investigation is complete. Nothing good is going to come from leaving a leader in power where they could potentially cover things up. Okay, so again, why am I saying she should be removed? Not because she is guilty, but I'm saying she should be removed because there's too much smoke to not investigate and see if there is a little bit of fire here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to want to go through these 22 reasons as quickly as I can because I don't want this to be a super long video. We've already been doing some reporting, like our breakdown of the Darvo responses from Joni and Daystar, if you want to check that out. We're going to be doing more reporting. We're going to be breaking down the NDA that was used in this soon. We're going to be breaking down the lessons that the American church has to learn from this Daystar TV scandal. But today, I want to make this video as quick as we can. That still doesn't mean it's going to be short, but I want to make it shorter than a normal 90-minute podcast. So let's go ahead and let's jump in to the reasons why I believe Joni Lamb should be removed from Daystar TV. All right, these are my concerns of why I think she has to be removed until that independent investigation is done. Number one, the use of NDAs. Now, if you've listened to us for any time at all, we are big believers that there is never a good reason for NDA use in the church. Okay, I believe NDA use in the church is sinful, but even at its best, it's not worth the negative that it brings. It's not worth the potential silencing. It's not worth the reproach that it brings on a church. And if you want more information on why I say that about NDAs, we do a 3-part deep dive series on NDA use, silencing tactics, things like that right here. You can go ahead and check that out. But anytime I see an organization use NDAs, that's a huge red flag for me for a church or a Christian organization. So not only have they used these NDAs, again, I've seen this NDA and it is problematic. It's more than what Joni has said that it is. Now, Joni's answer, I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick what she had to say about NDAs. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what she has to say about NDAs. It doesn't match what I've seen in this NDA, which we will break down soon. So let's listen to what Joni has to say.
So, Joni, what's up with this NDA whole thing? What is that all about?
Well, an NDA is something that Marcus started that process. He actually talked to an attorney friend about writing something up because Daystar had gotten so big and there was, business and proprietary information that you want to keep private.
And NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
So for those
but you have to understand that they're saying that we were trying to get him to sign an NDA so that they wouldn't share this information that we didn't want to share. That's a complete lie. There was no information to share. And you can share any kind of information that is wrong. I mean, you work in HR. If there's some kind of sexual abuse or something.
Absolutely.
And so the NDA was for business reasons.
All right, so there you have it. Joni says, hey, this NDA wasn't a big deal. It was only used for proprietary business information. And again, we're going to do a deep dive into this later, but I can tell you this NDA included broad provisions, like it didn't have an end date. It had a broad non-disparagement clause in it. As we talked about before, all of those things go way beyond the normal scope of a good NDA, and they shouldn't be used in church. So that's reason number one that I believe that Joni should be removed from Daystar. But reason number two, it's the lawsuits, the threats, and the intimidation. Or I should say the lawsuit threats and the intimidation. When reporting first started coming out about this, Julie Roys broke this story, okay? The Roys report broke this story, and they were one of the first ones to actually get a threat from lawyers, a threatening letter from lawyers from Daystar, basically threatening a defamation lawsuit if they didn't retract their reporting. Now, they stood by their reporting, and guess what? They published, guys. They published that letter, and they led the way for many more, because in the days that followed, what we found out was a lot of Christian YouTubers were getting these same letters. Essentially, what it looks like is that Daystar took anyone who spoke out against them in those early days, or even talked about what was being reported and gave both sides. They were sending out threatening legal letters, threatening lawsuits like candy, okay? And I'm just going to tell you, that's not the way that I normally see Christian organizations respond. That's not a way a church would normally respond. Scripture talks about us not being quick to lawsuits, not taking our brothers to court. So again, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. There's a lot of smoke to me with the lawsuit threats and intimidation. That by itself, I believe, is enough of a reason for Joni Lamb to be disqualified as the leader of this church, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, but Daystar is technically classified as a church. So I believe that's reason number two. Reason one's NDA use. Reason number two, I believe Joni should be removed, is the lawsuits and the threats of intimidation. And reason number three, it's her use of Darvo. Joni has given, Daystar and Joni have given a written statement, they've given a video statement, and Joni's done an interview on Daystar. And in all three of those, her responses have had all the markers of Darvo. If you don't know what Darvo is a narcissistic response that is often used by abusers to cover their tracks and to discredit those that they have abused or mistreated, okay? And we did a deep dive yesterday or a couple of days ago into that Darvo use and those responses. You can check that out right here, all right? And we've talked about Darvo before with narcissism expert Chelsea Brooke Cole. We talked about it in this video and how you can recognize Darvo. We did a deep dive there, and we talked about narcissism in the church as a whole here. So if you want to check those out, there's a lot more information there. But I will say the consistent use of Darvo tactics, I believe, is again by itself enough of a reason for Joni to be removed from Daystar leadership, if not permanently, at least until this investigation is done. Reason number four, I think she should be removed. When given the chance to comment after this story came out, again, there's been a lot of Darvo, but I have yet to see her practically address through a written statement or a video statement. I've yet to see her practically address the allegations and evidence that is already out there. There's been a little bit of he said, she said, where she gives just little pieces of story, where she says it differs from what Jonathan and Susie have said, but I've seen no practical evidence, and she hasn't spoken directly to any of the evidence, which again seems fishy. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire. Until this investigation is done, it's another reason why she needs to be removed. And again, you can see here is the written statement that she had with the Roys report. You can go over there. I'll link that below. You can check it. Here is the thumbnail of the statement video that she put on YouTube, which, by the way, and again, this is a huge red flag, she gave her statement on YouTube, and what did Daystar do? They turned the comments off, okay? That is always a big red flag to me when you turn the comments off. I actually asked her, talked to her about the Darvo response, and I thought, a very classy way, I thought respectful way, and asked if we could have more information, basically more of a response about the allegations and the evidence than Darvo. And guys, they blocked SAI and Church Disrupted. They blocked us on social media for that, or Joni blocked us. And then here's the interview, the thumbnail of the interview, and on YouTube. So you can go look those up. I'm not going to link them because I don't want to really support this right now, but you can go look those up on YouTube if you would like. Again, I just don't think the answers have been good enough for us to trust what she's saying yet. Without an independent investigation. Now, here's reason number 5. Reason number 5, it seems like the performance issues that she has talked about, the performance issues that led to the dismissal of Jonathan Lamb, that led to his firing. And again, if you're not familiar with the story, go check out the Roy's Report articles that we've linked below. They do a deep dive into all of that I don't want to get into in this video. But essentially, her son, Jonathan Lamb, who brought these allegations, him and his wife, Susie, he's a longtime worker there, is the former vice president there. And earlier this month, when they found out, around the same time that they found out that this reporting was coming out, they'd been talking to a reporter, they fired him. Now, Joni has said it was because of performance issues, but it seems awfully convenient that Jonathan's performance issues as the vice president of Daystar, it doesn't seem like they started until after the first abuse allegations were brought. If you look through the timeline, when the first abuse allegations were brought a few years ago about potential child SA, and they alleged that it was covered up, that's about the time that it looks like Jonathan started losing some of his influence at Daystar. So it feels like, I'm not saying it is, but it feels like from the outside looking in, like it could have been retaliation. And I'll do my best to release a timeline soon to help you keep up with some of this a little bit better, because it is very, very complex, okay? Reason number 6, why I think Joni should be removed. The evidence, all of the evidence, if you read the reports, points toward no actual investigation being done. Now, Joni and Daystar, from what I understand, have said that an internal investigation was done and cleared the person who was involved with Daystar of these child SA allegations. But the allegations from Jonathan and Susie, as well as testimony from Denise Boggs and others, actually, and it was Denise Boggs and it was, gosh, I can't remember her first name, but Miss Linhart, their testimony actually shows that investigation was never finished. It was never completed. So it looks like there's been no investigation done, even though they said it was. So not only is it dishonesty, but I think she needs to be removed and be away from this until this investigation is done so that she's not getting in the way of it. Reason number 7, and again, this is very simple. Maybe it's petty. I just don't like it. We see this all the time at SAI, but Daystar is a television network, but with the IRS, they're classified as a church. Why? The most common reason this happens is that nonprofit organizations that are Christian classify as churches so they don't have to be transparent with the IRS. Because a normal nonprofit has to provide 990 deep financial statements every single year. It's one of the reasons why, as a Christian nonprofit, the Spiritual Abuse Institute is not classified as a church, because we want to be transparent. So anytime I see that an organization like Daystar, right, is trying to classify themselves as a church, and then you look them up because they're still a nonprofit on GuideStar, and there's no information, they don't have to fill out a 990 because they're a church, it usually tells me that they're not very transparent, and at worst, they may be trying to hide something, okay? Reason number 8 that I think Joni should be removed from leadership at Daystar, she has only responded in insulated ways where she could control the narrative on her network. She's been interviewed on Daystar, but she hasn't responded well or given anything more than a canned statement to the Roy's Report when they reached out. She hasn't sat down with any other independent news journalist or anyone independent at all. She's only answered softball questions so far that she can control. That's a big red flag for me. Reason number 9, if you haven't listened to the video of the meeting between Joni Lamb, Pastor Jimmy Evans, and Jonathan and Susie Lamb. I'm going to link it, and I highly recommend that you listen to the Roy's Report video of that right now. This is the ninth reason why I think she should be removed is her behavior in that video. Her behavior in that meeting. She was being recorded and didn't know it. And guys, I'm telling you, the persona that she showed, all right, the character she showed in that meeting does not match her public persona, and her behavior in that meeting fits a lot of the hallmarks of spiritual abuse. I, from listening to it, would classify it as heavily spiritually abusive behavior, okay? And I'll go ahead, we'll play you a few clips, and I want you just to listen to her behavior. One of the most concerning things is how much she talked about how Jonathan had to submit to her authority. And in these videos, I'm not going to play this part, but she even called herself the voice of God to Jonathan. So go ahead and give it a listen if you haven't already.
Submission means she's the voice of God to you. What she says is God in Daystar. This is the voice of God in Daystar.
You know,
wait a minute, Jonathan.
I have a kind of...
She's the voice of God in Daystar.
No.
She is God's voice to you here on this property and related to Daystar Network. She is God's voice. You submit to her with the right spirit. You submit. You have to submit. Either you submit or you don't.
We'll leave if you don't submit to me. You'll submit to me. You'll submit to my authority. That's all. I don't want to hear anything else. Yes, Mom, I'll submit to you.
Whatever she says moving forward is God.
Now, if that wasn't bad enough, here are just a couple of other things that if you listen to the full meeting that you're going to hear that Joni Lamb said. Joni accused Jonathan of letting Susie, quote, these are her words. I normally wouldn't use this on a podcast, but these are her words. She accused Jonathan of letting Susie have him by the balls. Now, that doesn't sound like the kind of communication and language that someone who's running a Christian TV production station would use. Beyond that, she cursed throughout the meeting. So again, would she be removed for cursing or for using language like that? No. But all of the behavior together, it is highly concerning of whether she is qualified to lead this church or not, okay? The 10th reason why, it's the threats and intimidation, okay? In multiple recordings that the Roy's Report has put out there, including the last meeting, it seems like Joni's go-to has been threats and intimidation, and then with the legal threats and intimidation to Julie Roys and other Christian YouTubers and anyone who spoke out, all of it, it just seems like she is too good at this and going to this too much for this to probably not be a pattern. So until that's investigated, I would sit her down as well. The board needs to sit her down, in my opinion. The reason number 11, I think she should be removed, she doesn't seem open at all to an independent investigation. And I'm just going to be honest, innocent people normally want an independent investigation because it's going to help clear their name. Reason number 12, it actually centers around the green room and celebrity culture at Daystar. Now, being in green rooms, having a celebrity culture, does that mean someone's going to be sinful and disqualified by itself? No. But it usually leads, more often than not, to behaviors that protect you and what you have instead of regular people. You want to protect your reputation over people. And because of that celebrity and green room culture, I don't see a good reason for her to continue leading this organization while they're doing an investigation into her behavior. Reason number 13 why I think she should be removed, even if it's paid leave until this is finished. The police, according to the Roy's Report, still have an open and active investigation. And you can see the document about that investigation, the public record, right here, okay? Reason number 14, again, going back to them being a church, them being a nonprofit, classified as a church. When I look at Daystar's website, I look at GuideStar, I look at all the publicly available information, there seems to be little to no public transparency and accountability, especially around finances. There's no public financial information I can find for donors. And again, we do this. We post detailed financial statements. We release bank accounts when people ask questions. So we're not asking them to do anything we wouldn't do as a nonprofit. But again, that's concerning, the lack of transparency and accountability. Reason number 15 is it's the past allegations and questionable behavior and questionable decisions of Daystar. And I'm not just talking about Joni here. I'm talking about Joni. I'm talking about Marcus Lamb. I'm talking about Daystar as an organization. You're going to see, I'm just going to put up some news headings right now as I'm talking. you're going to see that there is a long line of questionable behavior. Okay, this isn't the first time that questions have come up at Daystar. Okay, from how they use PPP loans to all kinds of other stuff. This isn't the first time. And again, like I said, where there is this much smoke, there is usually fire. There is a trail of questionable behavior. So until we have an independent investigation to clear Joni of these things, or to prove that these allegations are true, whichever one is the truth, that's the one we want. Until that happens, I think she needs to be removed. Also, her connection with Jimmy Evans, he was brought in for that meeting for what they called mediation, and it really just sounded like a lot of spiritual abuse to me. Well, birds of a feather normally flock together, and I'm always very concerned about some of the connections that some of these people have. It doesn't mean that they're spiritually abusive or that we should cancel them on its own, but it does. It is, I think, a valid reason for concern. And Jimmy Evans, if you didn't know, he was a part of the restoration and mentoring to ministry of Mark Driscoll, who I believe is one of the worst spiritual abusers of all time and is completely disqualified from ministry. We talked about that multiple times on this channel. But also Robert Morris, who was removed this year due to past sexual misconduct and sexual crimes. He was highly connected. Jimmy Evans was highly connected to Gateway Church and Robert Morris. He was, I believe, his title was the Senior Apostolic Elder of Gateway Church. So again, there's too much in the past to say there's nothing here, okay? Again, this is just another questionable behavior in a long line of questionable behaviors, okay? Number 16, again, it's the demands of loyalty at all cost. The demands of loyalty at all costs, not just by Joni, okay, but also by Daystar as an organization with the NDA. So a couple of these men, they're really tight and they layer together, but they're all individual reasons why I believe she should be removed. Because if she's demanding that kind of loyalty and Daystar's demanding that kind of loyalty and silence and all of those things from Jonathan, then they're probably doing it from other people right now. And I just wonder, it looks like there are people and family members that the Roys Report reached out to that initially were open to talking, okay? And since then, no one out of Daystar's camp has said anything. Are they not allowed to have their own opinions, especially about the potential essay of a child, okay? A potential cover-up? They should be able to, but I just wonder, with that kind of demands of loyalty and that kind of culture, if anybody is allowed to speak. Reason number 17 why I think she should be removed. And again, guys, trying to go through this as quick as possible, but there's just so much evidence for why she should be set down and an independent investigation should be conducted. I mean, this is miles, it feels like, of evidence. But Joni says in her statement, she said she's hurt and she's broken, but she doesn't sound like it to me. Just personally, doesn't sound like it to me. Susie actually sounds like it. So I want you to hear a statement from Joni quickly. And I want you to hear her statement and her talking about her heartbreak and how hard this is. And then I'm going to show you a clip from Susie, and I'm going to let you judge for yourself who actually seems to be more heartbroken in this moment. I've seen a lot of Darvo responses from Joni. I haven't personally seen a lot of concern. I've seen her quicker to get angry and attack her son and attack his character. I haven't seen her very upset. So again, it just makes it hard for me to trust her, but I'll let you take a look at both clips and then you be the judge.
I can tell you that as a mother, as a grandmother, the situation saddens me deeply and it grieves my heart because I love my family. I love all my children. I love my grandchildren. I love the work we've done together for so many years. And I had hoped that we could have resolved the situation in private. But now, Jonathan has given me no choice except to speak out.
It's still hard. It is still hard. It's easy to talk to a journalist as a one-on-one person, but going public, it genuinely hurts. These are people that we love. These are not people we're angry at or hate. Okay, sorry. I'm trying not to get emotional. So
again, you've seen both clips. You've heard from both women. I'll let you be the judge of whether you buy into the level of heartbreak or not. I personally do not. I don't see evidence of empathy and remorse. So again, that's another reason why if I were the board at Daystar, would remove her. Of course, is there a real board? Who even knows at this point? But at least to be able to get some evaluation and screening by a psychologist that's independent to see if there is actual remorse here. But again, maybe that's just me. I'll let you be the judge. Reason number 18, and this is a big one for me. People close to Joni and formerly close to Joni, like Denise Boggs in this video right here, they've spoken out to corroborate a lot of what was alleged in the Roy's Report stories. So you got Joni, who says all this stuff's completely false and fabricated, and you got people close to her like Denise Boggs going, actually, let me corroborate that. Let me corroborate that. Yes, that happened that way. So again, it just doesn't look good. Reason number 19, as we finish out and we get close to the end of this list, for me, it's the intimidation and scare tactics that's been used with the family. From reports of SUVs being parked in front of where Susie and Jonathan are staying, reports of people with guns, all kinds of things that have made them fear for their safety, and even they left at one point. I don't know if they've still left, but they left at one point from their home. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that those came from Daystar. I'm not saying that all of those alleged things have come from Joni or that she ordered them. But what I am saying is, again, there's a lot of smoke here to not be fire for those things happening after Jonathan and Susie went public with their allegations. But I will let you listen to a very quick clip from Jonathan and Susie where they talked almost a week ago about what was going on. And I'll let you hear from them in their own words about some of the intimidation factor that they did experience from Daystar.
How did they do it? Who showed up at our door? This is why we left our house.
We made that video earlier, said we were going to go into an undisclosed location. We did. And of course, Daystar security guard came to our front door in a bulletproof vest with a gun,
Weapons,
and posted my termination letter on the door.
And it's the same man who stuck the tracker in his car.
Yeah, so that's, again, the Daystar Mafia coming after us. And so we were at a safe location, thankfully. We didn't have to deal with him.
We saw it on the camera.
But we saw it.
All right, so you heard it. Again, I will let you be the judge, but that seems way too concerning for me. It seems like intimidation and scare tactics that would have been used, at least some of those under Joni's watch. That's just another reason why I believe she needs to be removed until the conclusion of an independent investigation. Reason number 20, this just shows this is a high character concern, okay? I'm going to let you listen to a few different clips here from Joni in her interview on Daystar. But when she talks about, and we talked about this much more on our Darvo video, but every time she talks about Julie Roys from the Roy's Report, the journalist and the organization that broke this news and these allegations, every time she talks about her, she won't use her name. She dehumanizes her by not using her name, and she won't use her title. Julie is a very well-respected and good journalist who has broken some massive stories in the church world, in the faith world. But every time she talks about Julie, she calls her a low-level blogger, or she says and does other things to try to discredit her, to try to dehumanize her, instead of actually answering the allegations. So again, I'm going to let you listen to a couple of clips here, and you decide what you think. Is this the character of a godly leader? Would a godly leader react that way? Because this reporter is just doing her job and reporting on what has been sent to her. So again, I'll let you listen. You decide.
This is a narrative that was written by some low-level blogger who knows nothing, never heard the other side of the story, and is doing nothing but trying to destroy my family.
Sensationalize.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what she does.
yes,
Yeah.
and-
But, those are just misconceptions, again, by the low-level blogger who does nothing but be used in a way that is trying to hurt the kingdom of God. If you want to know the
Yes,
truth.
absolutely. We know who the enemy is.
And so again, the ball's in your court. You can decide what you think from there. But for me, my personal opinion, I don't see that as being godly character at all. And anytime I see a leader of a church or a Christian organization go so quickly to dehumanize and discredit someone for doing their job, it is usually a really bad sign. It doesn't speak well for their character to me. And now let's make it to the last two reasons why I believe Joni Lamb should have already been removed and has to be removed as soon as possible until this investigation is done. Number 21 is really just a question for me, and it's the answer to that question. So here's the question. Who stands to gain the most from this whole ordeal? And who stands to lose the most? Now, don't get me wrong, Joni and Daystar, they stand to lose a lot if these allegations are true. But let's say that the allegations never got investigated. Let's say no criminal charges were brought, okay? Who has the most to lose by this playing out in public? Well, I believe it's Jonathan and Susie. Because again, the other part of that question, what would they gain? What would Jonathan and Susie gain, okay, from making these public allegations? Well, they didn't gain favor with their family because they're lambs. And I am assuming that hardly none of their family, if maybe none of their family, is actually talking to them right now. They didn't gain financially. They're not getting paid for this. Actually, through this process, they've both lost their jobs, their careers, their livelihood, and right now there's a lot of fear. Speaking as someone who has had to leave toxic churches, who's had a wife who's had to leave toxic churches like this, without those paychecks, there's a whole lot to lose right there. They have a lot to lose from speaking out. Daystar, they don't have much to lose from speaking out. They have a lot to gain, okay? They gain if they can make Jonathan and Susie look bad. They gain if they can discredit Julie Roys as just some low-level blogger with a chip on her shoulder, right? So I just look at this, and I just don't see Jonathan and Susie gaining enough to bring these allegations, to drag their family through the mud, to put their daughter's business out there, her experience out there. I just can't see why you would do that if that wasn't true. This is very painful. It is very difficult. And oftentimes, just look at the data. Look at the data. Research for yourself. Abuse victims often wait, and people who are connected to abuse, they often wait decades to say anything because there's so much to lose. So again, I just don't see what they're gaining. I don't think it's enough that Jonathan and Susie would gain from telling the story if there's not at least some truth to it. Now, I could be wrong, but guess what? An independent investigation, it would make it very clear, very quick. And the final reason why I think that Joni Lamb has to be removed from leadership at Daystar, she in no way looks to be above reproach as a leader. And she is a leader, whether you consider it a church or not. The IRS considers it a church. She considers it a church. She's the leader of this faith-based organization. So I'm going to hold her to the same biblical standard that I would hold a pastor or a church elder to. And that standard is that those leaders should be above reproach. And we just went through 21 other reasons why I can't trust Joni's story. 21 other reasons why I can't trust her story until it's corroborated by an independent investigation. I've given you 21 other reasons why I have massive concerns about her character, about her honesty, about her truthfulness, okay? And again, even if they're all false and I am wrong, a lot of people share these concerns, and sharing these concerns is not above reproach. The only way to be above reproach with all of these concerns and allegations is to prove that they were false. And when you prove that they were false through an independent investigation, well, now you become irreproachable again. You become above reproach again because you've proven your innocence. So again, if leaders in the church, Christian leaders, are supposed to be above reproach, Joni Lamb, I see no reason why you're above reproach, which means your board needs to sit you down. And if they're not going to do it, would you have enough respect for God and his kingdom to do it yourself? And again, if they want to put you on paid leave, they want to put her on paid leave. Daystar, put her on paid leave. I don't care if she's paid or not. She doesn't need to be the leader of this thing until the results of the investigation comes out. But if the investigation comes out and she is guilty of any of these things, she needs to be fired and never paid another dime. I would encourage Daystar's board right now. Based on what I've seen, I would have concerns of whether she's qualified regardless of the investigation. Okay, but for me, that's 22 reasons. We'll just go through the list real quick, consolidate them all. Here are the reasons why I believe Joni Lamb should have already been removed or should be removed immediately from Daystar. NDA use, lawsuits, threats, and intimidation, the use of Darvo, not addressing the major allegations with any evidence, the performance issues of Jonathan leading to his firing looking like they were almost retaliation, no evidence of an internal investigation being done, even though she said that one was done, Daystar being classified as a church and hiding behind that, only responding in safe spots on her network with potentially scripted questions, her disturbing behavior in the meeting with Jimmy Evans and her son and daughter-in-law, the threats and intimidation that we heard on both recordings as well, not being open to an independent investigation, the celebrity and green room culture, the police investigation still being active, the lack of public transparency and accountability, the past allegations and long line of questionable behavior, the demands of loyalty at all costs, not showing any signs of empathy or struggle and pain in this situation. People close to her, like Denise Boggs, speaking out to corroborate the allegations that Jonathan and Susie have made. Intimidation and scare tactics with the family, like people coming to Jonathan and Susie's door with guns. The belittling, the constant belittling of Julie Roys because she reported this. The fact that Jonathan and Susie don't seem to stand to gain much of anything from these allegations. And again, all of that together, she's just not above reproach. So what do you think? Do you agree? Do you agree with me that Joni should be removed? If Joni was the leader of your church, do you believe that she would be disqualified from leadership of that church? Or, hey, do you think I've got it wrong? We don't always have to agree. Sometimes I do get it wrong. Do you think I'm being too hard on Joni Lamb and Daystar? Let us know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. One thing I think we can learn from this, though, and we're going to do a video very soon on what the church needs to learn, lessons the church needs to learn from this. But one of the lessons that I think that we definitely need to learn that we can go ahead and end this video on, being above reproach matters, character and leadership matters, and how we respond to allegations, even if they're untrue, they matter. And again, just from my perspective, I guess the number one reason, if you wanted a 23rd reason why Joni Lamb should be removed, the number one reason to me is she just doesn't seem to have the character that aligns with what is required of a Christian leader in Scripture. And I'm just going to say it. If we would get leaders with character deficiencies, as far as the ones that I can see, if we would get leaders like this with character deficiencies like this out of our churches, we would have a whole lot less scandals. So, hey, maybe your church hasn't been through scandal. Maybe there's a lot of things you love about your pastor. But the number one thing you need to ask about your pastor, not are they a good speaker, not are they a good leader, ask about their character. Ask, are they biblically qualified by their character and their integrity to lead that church? Because the moment we have character and integrity issues, more often than not, they're going to lead to something bigger. Scary allegations, disturbing allegations like this. But here's what I know, regardless of what's true, regardless of whether they remove Joni, regardless of whether they do an independent investigation or not, I want to encourage you to pray for everybody involved, especially for Jonathan and Susie Lamb's little girl, who is at the center of all this. Let's pray for them. Let's pray for truth. And let's do our best to encourage Daystar to do the right thing. I'll see you guys in the next video. See you in the next episode of the podcast. Until then, grace and peace. We'll be back very soon with a couple more videos on what's going on at Daystar as we try to get our head around all of it. But also, don't forget, we've got an interview with author Rebecca Davis, the author of Untwisting Scriptures in that series. It's coming up soon as we talk about her brand new book and how she can help you untwist some toxic and manipulatively used scriptures that are common in churches. So don't miss that as well. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you liked this content, go ahead, click the subscribe button. Go ahead, give us a like, and go ahead and follow the podcast. Whether you actually listen to podcasts on YouTube or you're just here on YouTube today and you normally listen somewhere else, follow the Church Disrupted podcast, where we have content like this every single week. We appreciate you. We appreciate you watching. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you next time on the next episode of the Church Disrupted podcast.